Every perfect system you've ever built is designed to fail. You're the one who designed it that way. This is the cycle of hope and collapse that defines modern self-improvement, and smart-driven people are the most likely to get trapped inside it. One side screams for more discipline, for more grit. The other argues for smarter, more flexible systems. Where do you stand? By the end of this, you might realize you've been asking the wrong question entirely. You know the feeling. It's Sunday night, a fresh notebook, a new app, a surge of clarity. This time, it will be different. The workout plan is perfect. The budget is immaculate. The morning routine is scheduled down to the minute. For 3 days, you are a machine. You are the person you were meant to be. Then on Thursday, a meeting runs late. You miss the gym. The perfect chain is broken. And instead of just picking it up on Friday, you burn the whole thing to the ground. The notebook gets shoved in a drawer. The app goes unopened. The diet ends with a pint of ice cream. Why? The most common answer is a failure of character. The voice in your head, the one that sounds a lot like a disappointed coach, says you just weren't tough enough. You lacked willpower. You gave up. This perspective argues that the system was fine. The person was weak. The friction you felt wasn't a design flaw. It was the entire point. Growth happens at the point of resistance. The discomfort of waking up early, of pushing through the last rep, of saying no to the impulse purchase, that is the forge where character is made. From this viewpoint, looking for an easier system is a form of cowardice. You're trying to find a way to get the results without doing the work. The solution is simple. You just have to want it more. You have to double down on discipline, embrace the suck, and force your way through the dip. That sounds convincing. It appeals to our inner stoic. But there's a problem. If raw discipline is the answer, why does the cycle repeat? Why do even the most motivated people find themselves back at square one, staring at the wreckage of another perfect plan? This is where the other side of the debate comes in. This perspective argues that the person is fine, the system is broken. You're building brittle, unforgiving structures that can't survive contact with a messy, unpredictable human life. Your plan has zero tolerance for error. It's an all-or-nothing design. The moment one piece fails, a psychological circuit breaker trips, and the whole grid goes dark. You logged 95% of your calories perfectly, but the 5% you missed feels like a total failure. You wrote for 29 days in a row, but missing day 30 feels like it erases the entire month. This camp would say you need an anti-fragile system, a system designed to get stronger from shocks, one with built-in protocols for failure. You don't need more willpower, you need a better if-then plan. If I miss a morning workout, then I will do a 10-minute walk after dinner. The system anticipates failure and has a procedure for it. It gives you a way back. It's designed for a human, someone who gets sick, gets stuck in traffic, or sometimes just has a bad day. The goal is consistency over intensity. The focus is on never having a zero day, a day where you do nothing. Even one push-up is better than zero. $1 saved is better than zero. This approach is compassionate, it feels sustainable, and yet the other side has its own blind spot. If your systems are too forgiving, too flexible, where does the transformation come from? A system with no standards is just a list of vague suggestions. A plan that allows you to constantly renegotiate with yourself is a recipe for mediocrity. At some point, you have to draw a line. At some point, you have to demand more from yourself. This is the core tension. One path risks burnout and shame spirals. The other risks stagnation. We oscillate between the two, building a military-grade prison, then tearing it down and wandering in a field with no fences, wondering why we're not getting anywhere. Each new system is just a reaction to the failure of the last one. Too rigid, the next one will be fluid. Too fluid, the next one will be ironclad. But what if both sides are missing the real engine of the collapse? The problem is the identity you fuse to the system. When you write, "Wake up at 5 a.m., you're casting a vote for an identity. I am the kind of person who wakes up at 5 a.m. When you schedule gym, 6 p.m., you're trying to become a person who is consistent with their fitness. The system is a vehicle for a desired self. This is incredibly motivating. For a few days, you get to live as that person. You feel the power of that new identity. The failure of the system, then, becomes so much more than a logistical hiccup. When you hit snooze, you just proved you are not the kind of person who wakes up at 5 a.m. When you skip the gym, you receive a verdict: you are not a disciplined person. The collapse happens because the failure feels like a character judgment. You didn't just break a rule, you broke the image of who you were trying to become. The shame is overwhelming, and in that moment of shame, restarting feels impossible. How can you go back to the gym on Friday when you've just received definitive proof that you're an inconsistent person? The system is now contaminated. It's a crime scene. Every time you look at that workout plan, it reminds you of your failure to embody the identity it represented. So you abandon it. You need a fresh start on Monday, with a new system to wash away the shame and try to build a new identity from scratch. This is why the cycle repeats. You're caught in a loop of identity aspiration and identity failure. Think about the language of the restart. Getting back on the wagon. It implies you've fallen off, that you are now off and need to perform a great feat to get back on. The distance feels immense. The energy required to make that leap back to the good version of you seems monumental. So you wait for Monday, you wait for the first of the month, you wait for a surge of motivation big enough to power that leap. Sometimes it never comes. The abandoned project just gathers dust, a silent monument to an identity you tried on and failed to inhabit. The way out of this trap is a subtle but profound shift. It's the decoupling of action from identity. The goal changes, the purpose is the action itself. The goal is to do the workout. It's a mechanical task. It has nothing to do with whether you feel like an athlete today. The goal is to write 500 words. It says nothing about whether you are a real writer. You are simply a person executing a task. This lowers the stakes from a moral referendum to a simple logistical problem. When you miss a day, you haven't failed as a person. You've simply recorded a 0 in a spreadsheet. The data point is neutral. It doesn't carry a story of shame with it. What do you do with a 0? You try to log a 1 the next day. That's it. Imagine a pilot flying from Los Angeles to Tokyo. The flight path is a perfect, elegant line on a map. In reality, the plane is off course 99% of the time. Crosswinds, turbulence, and tiny variations constantly push it off the ideal vector. The pilot's job is a continuous series of small corrections, a nudge here, a slight adjustment there. The pilot has a system, the flight plan, but they do not expect to adhere to it perfectly. They expect to deviate. Their skill is in the constant, unemotional act of returning to the path. They don't land the plane in Denver because of a little turbulence over the Rockies and declare the entire trip a failure. They just correct. The deviation is part of the process. This is the mindset that breaks the cycle. Your system is the flight plan. It's your best guess at the ideal path. Your life is the weather. It will inevitably push you off course. Your job is to make small, immediate, and unemotional corrections. The question, how do I restart my entire system, is the wrong frame. It's too big. It's tangled up in shame and identity. The useful question is much smaller. What is the next single action I can take to get 1% closer to the path? Maybe you can't face the gym. Fine. Can you do 10 push-ups in your living room right now? That is a correction. It is a vote cast. It gets you back in the game. Maybe your budget is a disaster. Fine. Can you track the next single purchase you make? Just one. That's a correction. This approach requires a new kind of restart ritual. Instead of the grand Sunday night planning session, you need a Day 1 protocol. It's a predefined, radically simple routine you deploy the instant you realize you've fallen off. It's your emergency procedure. It might be, put on your running shoes and walk for 5 minutes. Or open your laptop and write one sentence. Or transfer $1 into your savings account. The task must be so easy that it's almost laughable to say no to it. Its purpose is purely psychological. It is to prove that you can still take action, to sever the shame spiral before it takes root. It sends a message to your brain. The failure was an event, a data point. It was not a verdict on my character. And now we continue. Over time, you stop seeing your systems as monolithic pass-fail tests. You see them as a dynamic practice. Your skill is measured by your recovery time. How quickly can you go from off track to on track? From days to hours, from hours to minutes. The goal becomes a faster, gentler correction. You're building the muscle of the return. The most successful people are not the ones who never fail. They are the ones who are masters of the immediate, unemotional restart. They've made hundreds of small course corrections before the all-or-nothing person has even finished drafting their next perfect plan. They are still in the air, flying through turbulence, while others are on the ground waiting for perfect weather that will never arrive. So what do you think? Is the answer to build a fortress of discipline and just try harder? Or is it to design a compassionate, flexible system that bends without breaking? Or is the entire debate a distraction from the real work, the quiet, thankless, moment-by-moment task of separating what you do from who you are and learning how to make the next small correction again and again and again? When your next plan inevitably falls apart, what will you be restarting? The grand, perfect machine tied to your ego? Or the simple, humble act of taking a single step?